HooDoo MacGrew and the Glumpher, Chapter 1, The Peculiar Package. Jake MacGrew sat alone in his room. His fingers danced along the strings of his old guitar. When the rumble of a truck's engine reached Jake's ears, a mischievous grin appeared on his face. He placed the instrument on the bed, hid the guitar pick in his curly red hair, and spun his wheelchair around. In his new chair, the Purple Wonder, Jake had a fair chance of beating Eddie to the front door. He was out of the bedroom in record time. The wheels whirred as he sped down the hall. One more corner to maneuver. Then came the home stretch. The doorbell rang just as Jake rounded the bend into the foyer. "Drats!" shouted Jake. He gave the wheels one last push toward the door. "Ha! Looks like it's one more for me, Superman," joked Eddie as he smiled from the other side of the screen. Jake MacGrew and Eddie Porter had become good friends during the past 4 years. Jake ordered some pretty crazy things through the mail, and it was Eddie's job to deliver them. Whenever he had the time, Eddie hung around to find out what was in the package, or to help Jake if he needed a hand assembling something. "Hi, Eddie. Anything good today?" Eddie shrugged. "I don't know. The box is a real weird color and smells sort of strange." "Never smelled anything like it before," mumbled Eddie as he headed back to the truck to get the package. He quickly returned carrying a large wooden box, 3 feet long by 2 feet wide by 9 inches high. It was the color of a firefly's lamp and had the same luminescent glow. "There's no record of where it came from. There's no paperwork at all. Sure hope it's what you ordered." Eddie slipped into his talking about the weather voice. "I'd really like to see what's in this one. Gotta just drop it off and run. Lots of deliveries today, and I'm running behind schedule. I'll stop by tomorrow if it's okay. Oddest box I've ever seen. Can you handle it all right?" Eddie placed the box over Jake's lap, balanced on the arm of the Purple Wonder. "Sure, no problem, Eddie. Thanks. See you tomorrow." After a smile and a wave, Jake was alone once again. He stared at the package. His heart skipped 3 beats. Jake couldn't believe his eyes. He couldn't believe his nose. The wood of the strangely colored box smelled faintly of pine and nectarines. "Of course there's no record of where this came from," he thought. Quickly he opened the envelope taped to the outside of the box. A slip of paper marked with the words, "Thank you," fell onto his lap. He didn't know how, but he sure knew who. For once in Jake's life, he was glad no one was home. He wrapped his arms around the box that lay across the wheelchair, rested his head against the smooth, firefly-colored wood, and closed his eyes. With a long, deep breath, Jack inhaled the fragrance of pine and nectarines. The memory of that scent rested fresh in his mind, happy to be called forth so soon. With that memory came thoughts of the Glumpher. Somehow the Glumpher had managed to ship the luminescent box to Maine, and in doing so had kept his promise to Jake. The how of it didn't concern the young boy. There it was, and that was all that mattered. Jake missed the Glumpher. It seemed like forever since they said goodbye. As the scent of pine and nectarines filled his head, Jake's mind wandered back to that day, just 1 month ago, when he first met Glumpher. It was the 4th of July. Friends and relatives arrived earlier than usual to watch the fireworks and to celebrate Jake's 11th birthday. When Jake was a preschooler, he thought the neighboring town set off fireworks just for him. On his 5th birthday, he learned that the United States of America shared that special day with him. He also learned that life was not always fair. At the age of 5½, Jake was in an automobile accident. His buckled seatbelt saved his life. It also paralyzed him from the waist down. The 4th of July wasn't the same after that. Watching fireworks from the front porch wasn't nearly as much fun as watching them from the top of the mountain. Before the accident, it had been a tradition to pack plenty of food and blankets and hike to the summit of Mount Magash to watch the sky paintings. Jake's relatives have been climbing that mountain every 4th of July for 37 years. But Jake's wheelchair was not built for adventures. For the past 5 years, everyone sat around on the porch trying to see the fireworks through the branches of the giant oak trees that surrounded the MacGrew's house. Jake knew that his 11th birthday would be a good one. He just knew it. Early that morning, Jake retreated to his bedroom to escape tickle attacks from his younger sister and their 5 cousins. He took out the old guitar his grandfather had given him. Before he had finished playing the first 5 measures of his newest tune, Jake heard the familiar rumble of Eddie's truck. Eddie doesn't deliver on holidays. I wonder what's going on. Jake laid his guitar down and moved to the window to investigate. Shouts and cheers drowned out the sound of Eddie's truck as it topped the hill of the steep driveway. Jake leaned out the open window. He watched as Eddie turned the truck around, cut the engine, and walked around to the back. He reached into his pocket for the key to the rear doors. Jake knew his curiosity would kill him if Eddie didn't move a little faster. Finally, Eddie found the key and unlocked the doors. Before he revealed the surprise, he turned toward Jake's window. "Hey, Jake," Eddie hollered. "Happy birthday! I'll race you to the door next time I come." Eddie opened wide the double doors at the rear of his truck. Jake's mouth popped open. Tears blurred his vision. His wish had come true. The Purple Wonder. Jake watched Eddie lift the hot rod of wheelchairs out of the delivery truck. The flashy purple frame gleamed in the sun, contrasted by the black nylon seat. No wonder so many relatives arrived early. "Guess you folks will be heading up the mountain this year. Happy 4th to you, and thanks for letting me bring this up here for Jake. See y'all later." Eddie got back in his truck, waved, and drove off down the driveway. Finally, another birthday on Mount Magash. The day did not disappoint Jake. The adventure of wheeling up the mountain left him exhilarated and hungry. Halfway to the summit, the parade of family, friends, and relatives stopped at their special resting spot next to the salmon stream. "Mama," questioned Jenny, Jake's younger sister, "why is it called the salmon stream? Do salmon really swim all the way up here?" Maggie MacGrew laughed. "No, Jen. Grandma and Grandpa MacGrew gave it that name when they first discovered the stream many years ago. At that time, there grew an odd sort of vegetation in the water. The plants turned the water a pinkish-red color that reminded Grandma of canned salmon. The plants disappeared when your dad was about Jake's age, but the name stuck." "Let's eat," shouted Jake's Aunt Martha, who owned the local truck stop and thought constantly about food. Jake's aunts spread the red and white checkered tablecloths on the grass as his mother pulled food from the picnic baskets in the coolers. She placed a platter of fried chicken in the center of one tablecloth and surrounded the platter with bowls of potato salad, deviled eggs, coleslaw, and potato chips. On the second tablecloth, she placed a basket of fresh fruit, a cutting board with cheese and crackers, a platter of chocolate chip cookies, and a loaf of banana bread. A stack of brightly colored plastic plates anchored one corner of the third tablecloth, and a jug of pink lemonade sat at the opposite corner, surrounded by napkins, forks, and paper cups. Jake could only pick at his food. His excitement over the Purple Wonder had tied his stomach in knots. Lunch ended, baskets repacked, and the climb continued. By the time the group reached the summit, Jake was ready to eat his and everybody else's dinner. "Jake," suggested Mrs. MacGrew, "why don't you give that Purple Wonder a real test and help your sister and cousins gather wildflowers for centerpieces?" "Sure, Mom. I think I even remember where some of them hide." Jake wheeled off, hoping to find yellow rattlebox, meadow sweet, boneset, and mountain sandwort, along with a few wild berries to tease their appetites. When the children returned with their treasures, the dinner feast was ready. Wine for the grown-ups, milk or juice for the children. Hamburgers and hot dogs, fresh blueberries, sliced tomatoes, and corn on the cob were added to leftovers from lunch. When the cousins finished eating, Jake's mother put down her plate and walked over to a basket that had not yet been opened. "We can't celebrate Jake's birthday without a cake, you know," said Mrs. MacGrew as she spread a fresh tablecloth onto the ground. Out of the basket she lifted a birthday cake. 11 candles surrounded a picture of the purple wonder that one of his cousins had drawn with purple icing. Jake's mother lit the candles as the cousins twirled sparklers and cheered. Jake wriggled over to the cloth and rested his head on the soft fabric. He watched the candles on the cake flicker. The birthday wish he had made for the past few years had come true. The purple wonder was his. Camping, fishing, searching for gemstones, the door to high adventure flew open and beckoned Jake to cross the threshold. Eddie will really get a kick out of the stuff I start ordering now, thought Jake, remembering his friend who had delivered the wheelchair to his house. He made a new wish and blew out the candles. Everyone joined voices and sang happy birthday. Jake's mother kissed him on the forehead. A tear fell onto his nose from her cheek. Jake raised his head and extended his arms to her for a hug. "Thank you, Mom." Mrs. MacGrew handed each of the children a thick slice of the chocolate cake. Jake stuffed the candles into his shirt pocket. He would add them to his box of family memorabilia and special treasures that he kept under his bed. "Who's ready for a story?" called a voice from behind Jake. The voice belonged to Elizabeth. Elizabeth and Maggie MacGrew had grown up together when children and had remained friends as adults. "Hooray!" shouted both children and grown-ups. Elizabeth was a storyteller. Everyone gathered around her. The evening sky was quickly losing its light. Elizabeth added a few more sticks to the fire. Tonight's tale is a special tale for Jake, though we all can learn from it and enjoy it. Elizabeth's voice held captive her small audience. The evening's tale was about a boy who wanted to be a jazz musician. An only son, the boy could not leave his farm in Nebraska because the family could not survive without his help. The boy was doomed to live his life as a farmer instead of a musician. One day, a stranger happened along. While working as a hired hand, the stranger taught the boy the secret of making dreams come true despite apparent limitations. Elizabeth finished her tale just as the first of the fireworks exploded. Oohs and ahs, reds, golds, glistening whites, stars, swirls, shooting stars of blue and green. Exploding rockets fell like rainbows across the moonless sky. Jake's eyes grew heavy while the fireworks still thundered in his ears. His thoughts got lost among the glowing embers of the campfire. Jake could not remember a happier moment in his 11 years. Sitting beside him, his mother quietly sang happy birthday and watched his eyelashes flutter, then rest on his cheeks. Jake drifted into the darkness of sleep. His mother's singing sounded distant to him. He tried to stay close to the singing, but felt himself being pulled from it. He tumbled over and over like Alice down the rabbit hole, but at the same time felt himself rising. Falling, flying, spinning around and around, he traveled in all directions at once. Soft, wispy clouds tickled his face as he slowed to a stop. Jake found himself in the blackness of night, standing on what he felt like mossy ground. The sensation of dampness beneath his feet startled him. Jake's legs and feet had been without feeling since the accident. He wanted desperately to see if he could wriggle his toes, but he dared not try for fear he would awaken from the magnificent dream. Instead, Jake gazed at his new surroundings. He found himself in a forest, the pine trees nearly hidden by the dense fog that wrapped around him. Jake's curiosity won over his fear. He held his breath and wiggled his toes. They worked. They wiggled. He closed his eyes and slapped his face to see if he was awake or asleep. When he opened his eyes again, he was still in the foggy forest. He wiggled his toes again. They still worked. This was too good to be true. Just as he summoned enough courage to attempt taking a step, Jake heard an eerie sound through the fog.